Thank you, Chair. And thank you to our guests for coming here this morning. I've used the word in this committee a number of times, frustration, and I'm absolutely deeply frustrated today, and I'll tell you why. Doctors differ and patients die, and we're talking about how we can basically go back tracing patients and do all of this, when in actual fact, testing is the key, and rapid turnaround testing will do an awful lot to prevent a surge in COVID. I brought antigen tests to NEFIT almost 8 weeks ago, and nothing has been done with them. And we look at the television last night and we see Donald Trump putting out 150 million antigen tests and another 15 million by a company that I brought to NEFIT. NEFIT have looked and decided to look away from antigen tests. We look at Vienna this morning, who are looking at LAMP technology, but Tomas Ryan brought into this committee 6 weeks ago, which has not been pursued. And the question with all of this is these are rapid turnaround tests, far cheaper than what we're doing, which would give us scope to really chase down contacts at a very early stage, would give us the scope to begin the asymptomatic testing, random testing in the HSE and in community care to make sure that workers are not transmitting disease. And we cannot seem to get any go forward. And Dr. Henry, I know you've answered this question before and you've spoken about the specificity and the positivity rate of PCR versus others. Well, I can tell you these tests are approved by the World Health Organization. Now, why in the name of God are we not trying to pursue these testing applications instead of spending time running around spending hundreds of millions where we could be spending tens of millions and getting far more effective outputs, if you please?
Deputy, the World Health Organization you referenced recommend antigen use primarily in settings where PCR is unavailable. So PCR is still seen as the most sensitive test.
Sorry, Dr. Henry, with respect, PCR is not available. We know where PCR testing is going if we have to go to very high test numbers. We know the delay, and delay is critical in this point. You and I both know that. The question is, why are we not even looked to put this on as an addendum to PCR testing?
We are evaluating antigen testing, and I appreciate the representation you made on behalf of antigen testing, and I expect the result of that evaluation will be imminent. But I'm repeating what I said earlier, that the experience here and we're leaning into that evidence internationally at this point in time, and we're not closed off to new ideas. At this point in time, PCR remains the most sensitive test, and we need sensitivity to identify with the most accurate possible way those who have the virus and are at risk of passing it on, and to identify those close contacts, asymptomatic or otherwise, who are carrying the virus.
Dr. Henry, this is not a personal criticism, okay, but, you know, I think perfect is the enemy of the good here. To say that we don't have the specificity, we do have 90% specificity with these antigen tests. I'm not sure that PCR is far above that, to be honest. I'm not an expert in this area, but I certainly know that there are other options out there besides what are being pursued by NEFIT, and I can't understand it, and other people in the medical space cannot understand why are we not pursuing these things when other countries, Germany, Vienna, are pursuing them. Vienna are pursuing a new test called a Gurgle test, which they can have a turnaround in 6 hours. They have a fleet of buses going around doing LAMP testing of schools. How can we not move to some level of rapid turnaround testing?
Sorry, Deputy, just on LAMP testing, am I just...
Yeah, so look, on the various testing, we are looking at all those testings. What we're doing with antigen is looking at the settings where it's best to be used. So we've studied the actual tests themselves and the samples. We've talked to the vendors. We have access to them as a country. We want to use them in conjunction with PCR testing. And with our public health leads, we're looking at what is the best setting to deploy antigen testing. And we've discussed that with some of the industry groups where we do serial testing at the moment. And we will use the tests with the best result on positives and negatives and most accurate. On LAMP technology, we have looked at LAMP technology and we have compared LAMP results to other results, and we have found that it has taken longer to get the positives out of LAMP because they have to be tested twice. So we are looking at all of these things. We're looking at pooling as well, which is another form of testing, and that is having more positive results for us. So all of those are going on at the same time. We're also looking at new swabs that speed up the testing cycles. Everything that's available internationally, we do have access to, and NVRL do good coverage of all of that with our testing.
Thank you, Mr. Byrne. I'm rather short on time here, so look, what I'd say to you is this would all be very reassuring if I could go back in the minutes of this committee more than 6 weeks where the statements are, we are looking at these. When will we get to a point when we're going to stop looking and actually implement something? And I think that's what people want to see. This is the frustration that people outside of the public sector have when we look in at some of these things and we figure out why can decisions not be made. Even if it is not 100% perfect or 90% perfect, it would be better in my mind to have a rapid test that's 85% successful rather than wait 4 days to have a test that's 90% successful.
Deputy, just to make the point very briefly, sorry Chair, if I can.
Yep, go ahead.
I mean, there is experts advisory group looking at this, evaluating it, assessing it, taking all words, evaluation and methodologies, headed up by Dr. Killian Gascoigne, and that's where we seek guidance from, to be straight.
And thank you, Mr. Reid, and I accept that, but I do think that, you know, in any industry you look at your peers, and if we're looking at
PCR testing,
if we're looking at countries like Austria, like France, like Germany, and we're saying that what they are doing is that we shouldn't yet be doing it, something is wrong with that. And me, can I just ask one final question of Dr. Reid? Mr. Reid, I'm aware of 2 doctors who have come back to Ireland who signed up for work as part of the Ireland on Call COVID. They're getting no extension to their work contracts. Their work contracts are due to finish now, and they're both going to be without work. Has there been any look at this situation in terms of the HSE looking at these people and what we're going to do for people who very kindly came back here to try lend their hand to a national effort, and now they're being left high and dry, if you please?
Deputy, I'd be quite happy if you forward to the committee the specifics of it. Just to make the very brief point, as part of the recruitment this year, we have net increased both our doctors and our consultants by about 152, and doctors by about almost 1,000 as well. And we're quite happy to, and we are continuously on a recruitment campaign for both. We've a net increase of 4,700 staff since March of this year, primarily medical and nursing, midwifery, and various other roles. So we are recruiting, and we are recruiting for winter. Happy to look at any specifics.
Thanks very much.